It is 1:01 a.m. Why am I drinking soda at 1 in the morning? Mind your business. Sometimes I just want to feel something again. Is that a crime? Hello and welcome to the next installment of Nat's Book Club, the series where I, Nat, read a book and talk about it to an audience of myself. And Katie, I see you. I hear you. I feel... That's taking it too far. Today we will be discussing Haunting the Hunter by Hanna Harp. Like every other time, I will be splitting things up into sections. The beginning will all be spoiler-free, just in case anybody who watches decides at some point that they would also like to read this book. And at this point here is when the spoilers will begin. I'll be sure to give another reminder of the spoilers once that part begins. And these are going to be the sections here. Section 1, the premise in my own words. Baby sister Callisto and big brother Cade grew up in a cult. Cade was raised to take over the cult. Callisto was raised to be a sacrifice to the cult's god. Cade, being an awesome older brother, escapes with his sister with the help of his internet friend and hacker Jack. Since escaping, Cade has vowed to get revenge for what the cult did to his sister. Never mind him, he's okay. Not really. But I'm sure if he pretends like he is, one day he really will be okay. That's how it works, right? Callisto, a witch, has been hiding from the cult for years. Cade won't even let her out of the house. It's that intense. She summons an entity to watch over her brother because she's concerned about him. She should be. And suddenly she starts being haunted by something. Alabaster is a poltergeist or a demon or something that's been watching her for a long while. Like, obsessively. It's honestly disgusting. He wants nothing more than to completely ruin and taint Callisto. And until she summoned something to protect her brother, she had no clue Alabaster was even there. Finally, there is you. You, the reader, are the entity that Callisto summons to keep an eye on her brother. As you read, your presence is right there alongside the characters. A ghost intrinsically woven directly into the narrative. Shut up! That noise that just came on, that's my fridge. There's nothing I can do about it. I'm sure I've mentioned it in one of my previous videos, but you're just gonna have to deal with it like I deal with it. Like I deal with my trauma. I don't. Section 2. Initial thoughts going into it. Any fourth wall breaking book that goes the extra mile to become a reader insert fourth wall breaker, rather than being a book that just addresses the reader in some way, will instantly have me hooked. And I need somebody to recommend more books like this. Let me grab the book so I can read to you what was written on the back that made me go, I need to read this. I'm okay. Okay, here's the book. Warning, this is not just a book. It's an invitation. A contract sealed the moment you turn the page. If you choose to follow him, he will hunt you. This story does not end when you close the book. Oh, shucks! I guess I'm taking one for the team. I'd like lilacs and lilies of the valley at my funeral, please. And make sure you hang my body up on the ceiling fan before you bury me. I want to take one last spin. It's actually embarrassing how excited I was for this book. Like, I was in the middle of reading The Witcher: Baptism of Fire and stopped just to start this book. This is such a unique premise that I've struggled to find replicated in any other book. I've genuinely searched for it and have fallen short. Something super important to note is that I did look up the Goodreads reviews before starting this book. And that was honestly the saving grace for this book. There wasn't a lot of marketing for this book. In fact, I just got lucky and happened to notice it on the shelf because it looked like it was inspired by Supernatural. Despite the very little marketing, the marketing they did have overhyped this book so much that it was to the point where it ended up being almost false advertising. I think I'll go more into that in section 5, but it's important to at least mention now. The marketing brings your expectations for the book unrealistically high. And that's what almost every single negative review talks about. Reading those reviews definitely lowered my expectations enough to actually properly enjoy this book. Haunting the Hunter also has a content warning page. I think I'm just gonna take a picture and show that to you because there's a lot. I do take an issue with this content warning page simply because some of the mentioned triggers are a complete mockery of trigger warnings. Like, fourth wall break is on this list. Why is that triggering? I don't know. If anybody watching this has better insights on it, please leave a comment and inform us all. They're meant to be jokes, I think, but you don't want to joke with your trigger warning page. It makes the audience take the real triggering topics less seriously, which can be harmful. At least the author does a good job at making sure that every triggering thing in the book is actually listed in the content warning page. Reading it, I didn't find anything else that should have been added to the list, so good on her for that. Everything on this list really does show up in the book, so take that seriously. Actually, before I do go on to the next section, I do want to point out one triggering theme that I feel like should be mentioned. I want you all to know I'm going off script for this, so please excuse the way I'm talking if it's not very eloquent. There are a lot of, like, dubious consent themes, dubcon if you will. The Oxford Dictionary defines dubious as hesitating or doubting or not to be relied upon. So dubious consent is basically when consent is fuzzy. And there certainly is a good chunk of that really fuzzy consent where it's hesitant, or the lines of what was consent is a little blurred, if that makes sense. I've tried explaining this twice, and I don't know if it's properly been conveyed, but I think that's worth mentioning in the video rather than just showing you it's on the content warning page. Section 4, a more in-depth synopsis with spoilers. This is where the spoilers begin. You have been warned. We start off with a prologue from our resident demon Alabaster's point of view, where he's practically drooling and humping the air watching the 21-year-old witch, Callisto Holloway, or Callie for short. She takes a pendulum that she randomly finds, they call it a magical artifact, and calls for help from the spirits. She asks that whoever it is that she's summoned, not Alabaster, he was already there, binds themselves to her brother and protect him. That is when you come in. Me. Us. Maybe I should just call them YN. YN is... YN is a human. That much is confirmed. That Callie ends up summoning to protect her brother Cade. She gives the pendulum to Cade, who's like, seriously? You want me to believe that this pendulum is gonna protect me? Magic isn't real, Callie. But he takes it anyway to make her happy and wears the pendulum like a necklace. Diving into the first chapter, I wish I was joking. We find ourselves following 29-year-old Cade Holloway, who is at a giant orgy party. We find out that he's bi or pan or whatever. So that establishes that YN really could be anybody. I appreciated that. Despite the fact that he's got his eyes set on one chick in particular and ends up smashing her, he's actually not here for the orgy. Surprise! In fact, the only reason he was so invested in that one chick was because he was there to kill her, which he promptly does after they do the tango. How do you do the tango? At least he got her enthusiastic consent for the first part. Why is he killing her? Well, he and his sister escaped a cult called the Order of the Covenant. This chick he killed, her name was Olivia White. And she was the daughter of one of the super important people in the cult. And since escaping and saving his sister, he's vowed to kill them all. The whole cult. Ambitious, admirable, stupid. I love it. warms my heart. After killing her is right around when we see him beginning to feel YN's presence. I have to come up with a better name for the reader. He thinks he's starting to go crazy. I mean, he probably is, but he thinks it's because he's started to feel a ghostly presence. Callie, on the other hand, is stuck at home with genius hacker Jack. I don't think we were given a last name or age for Jack, but we at least know that he's likely between the ages of 21 and 29. Jack's story is that as a kid, he hacked into the Covenant's systems or something along those lines, and Cade, being their perfect little trained assassin, was sent to kill Jack. Cade, in fact, did not do that, and instead made a friend out of him. A friend that played a very important part in how the Holloway siblings escaped. Callie has been having these dreams since she summoned the reader. Although Alabaster has been around her for a rather long time, she's only been able to really feel his presence since she summoned us. And he's been making sure she's aware that he is there. Dreams, smells, electrical issues, anything and everything except actually introducing himself. It's been really disturbing her, especially because nobody around her believes that magic and the paranormal are actually real. Cade comes home from his escapade. Sorry. How to pronounce escapade? Escapade! So Cade comes home from his escapade, and him and Callie have a heart-to-heart. We love it. She wants in on the whole revenge business because she loves her brother and wants to keep him safe however she can. In the background, the news is playing and they hear billionaire Alan White and daughter Olivia White die in a tragic car crash. I don't know why I said it like that. Olivia is the girl that he just killed, and Alan is her father, the guy that Cade was planning on killing next. Now come here. We all know that Olivia did not die in a car crash. So they realize that Alan faked his death to get away from Cade, meaning the Covenant is onto him and his plans for revenge. Meaning they have to start from scratch on their search for Alan White. Cade is pissed, to say the least. I would be too, probably. Callie suggests they find an inn with his wife, Rosa White. They think that this is impractical because she never had any power in the cult. No way would she be of any use to them in their search for Alan. See, if you couldn't tell, that's what we in the literary world would call foreshadowing. Honestly, it wasn't even subtle foreshadowing. Like, I read it and I was like, oh, that's like, she's gonna be like the leader of the cult, isn't she? Is that spoilers? No, you all probably figured it out along with me. It's not. With more help from Callie's useful ideas, Jack locates Alan in the middle of the desert in Nevada. How do you guys pronounce Nevada? Nevada? At some point before Cade leaves to hunt Alan, Callie gets scared because she sees something in the woods. We know that it was Demon Man Alabaster, but Callie doesn't tell Cade that. She just says that she thought she saw something, and so Cade does a perimeter check. Why is this important to tell you? Well, because Cade finds a deer out in those woods and realizes, oh, this chick is going crazy being locked up in this house in total isolation with nobody to talk to but Jack. And to be fair, he also thinks he's going crazy with how his dreams and thoughts are filled with YN. Man gets so horny every time he thinks of us. I'm sorry to all my straight men and lesbians watching, but that's right. Us. I'm not suffering this alone. So he cuts her a deal. Callie can go into town, but only with somebody chaperoning her at all times. A privilege she almost immediately takes advantage of the minute that Cade leaves. I would too. Jack and Callie go out to eat. She has her first shot of tequila, not a gun. It's all fun. It's fun times. Except she feels like she's being watched. Because she is. They then go to the arcade, low-key kind of flirt with each other. Perfect opportunity to mention that Jack and Callie used to date, but they broke up because they were better friends. Sure, you can tell yourself whatever makes you feel better. Also, they knew that if Cade knew that they had ever been together, he would throw an absolute fit. So to this day, they have kept that a secret from Cade. And I'm sure that it will remain a secret throughout the whole book. Which contributes to why things are so heated between Callie and Jack. Something Alabaster does not like. So he, in public, I don't even actually know what happens. It's like she's grinding up on him, but he's not a physical being. So like pressing up against air, it's not even a whole thing. It's just a scene that's there. It exists. Out in the world, Kate is driving, stops at a Dunkin's for coffee and food. And wouldn't you know it, he finds a kitten. Fluffy black fur, amber eyes, and a nuisance. It jumps onto his car and acts like it lives there. Cats do that. I would know, I have too. He's about to part ways when a shit stain of a man kicks the fucking kitten. And being the sexiest man alive, Cade scoops up the kitten in his arms, slashes the man's tires, and dips, telling the man Karma's a bitch. And that's what they named the cat. Karma. They named the cat Karma, not bitch. He buys a bunch of cat supplies, including but not exclusive to geriatric cat food. He's trying. Give him a break. Luckily, he wasn't too far from home, so he pops back into the house and drops the cat off. And Callie is ecstatic. So is Alabaster. Alabaster apparently, really loves cats. And cats love him. For a guy who's a walking red flag, that's the first green flag thing I've seen from him. I realized when editing the script that I never mentioned Karma again after this, so just know that she is healthy, and Alabaster has deemed her his and Callie's child. We love that for them. There's a moment where Callie tells Jack, I don't know what I'd do without you. And Alabaster thinks, well, you're gonna fucking find out because I'm going to kill this man that clearly still has feelings for you. And honestly, I can't even be too upset about that. I'm not Jack's biggest fan. This was a pretty pointless thing to mention, but I thought it was funny. The thing about Callie and Jack, they work well together. Jack likes Callie, and if it weren't for Alabaster, I'm sure she'd end up falling for him again too. He's not a bad guy. A flirt, sure, but he's good for Callie, and she's good for him. Even if I'm not too fond of the guy, I can at least recognize that much. Not fond of him, but I can give the guy recognition where it is due. I'm addressing it real quick. Can of Coke, gone. I had to take a small break. Be chill about it. So that night, they go to the bar. Alabaster scares the shit out of a guy that was flirting with Callie, like the possessive asshole that he is. The next day, Alabaster finally shows himself to Callie, but only she can see him. Convenient. There's this one part where she's like, answer my fucking question, you piece of shit. And he's like, God, this woman is incredible. And I mention that because it basically sets up their whole dynamic from here forward. Cutting back to Cade, he's been on the road for 14 hours to get to Nevada. He gets a motel room, pays some prostitutes. For information, you sick fucks. Get your head out of the gutter. Then turns in for the night. He has this dream about us. He tends to have a lot of them. And he's genuinely disturbed by how much he wants us. He hates how much he wants us. And how it's the only thing that feels good to him anymore. I can't judge him too harshly for that. One of the only things keeping me alive when I was 14 was how much I watched Leonardo the Ninja Turtle. So, I get it far more than I should. He drives to a bar, and wouldn't you know it, there's a chick that asks for his help. Her name is Andrea, and she's trying to get away from her brother who's in a biker gang. Real piece of shit, of course. And of course, Cade, being the protector of women, especially women that remind him of his sister Callie, saves the day. I wasn't sure where to fit this in, but he's pulled onto the dance floor by a group of drunk ladies, and he wants to be anywhere but there. Random ladies grinding up on him, he hates it. So he dips. He dips out a lot. When he dips out, he's confronted by the gang, and he beats the shit out of them, offering to drive Andrea to her home. Why is that important? Because, of course, we have to establish that Cade is a true feminist, and it does actually come back later. The first word jumping back to Callie. This is the scene where we have the famous toaster possession mentioned in the trigger warning page. Alabaster possesses her toaster and burns her fucking toast. He can catch these fucking hands for that. I don't care if he's a demon. I become a demon when you mess with my toast because I fucking love bread. How dare he? The events that follow are... Ugh, don't make me talk about it. I get such secondhand embarrassment. Callie is like, come on, bro, I just wanted some breakfast. And Alabaster is like, me too. And eats... I don't need to spell it out for you, I don't think. On the counter, bare ass, where food is prepared, she's making noises, and of course fucking Jack hears. But Alabaster isn't just gonna stop, because no, that would spare Callie some decency. Jack walks in, and remember, he can't see Alabaster. So to him, it just looks like Callie is spread out, butt naked on the counter, going at it, hands free. Luckily for both of them, Jack is like, that's the hottest thing I've ever seen. And if you wanted to get off, you could have just asked me. And then Alabaster possesses Jack, completely erases his memory. It's overall a pretty uncomfortable scene, especially because we learn that Alabaster is really not very skilled at possessing people. This scene, admittedly though, is very important because Alabaster actively threatens Callie with Jack's life. This is when Callie finally starts taking things a little bit more seriously and does some research in the grimoire that she stole from the Covenant right before they fled the cult. She finds ways to protect herself from demons, and none of it works. This is where we find out, yeah, he's not actually a demon. We don't know quite yet what he is, but a demon isn't it. Okay, finally we go back to Cade. He drops off Andrea at her house and then finds Alan and tails him. Except Alan is drunk as hell and gets pulled over and detained by a cop. So change of plans. He pulls into a gas station and wouldn't you know it, the gang followed him. They have a fight and one of them says he brought a knife to a gunfight, except it doesn't really work in this scenario because Cade is a trained assassin and they're probably middle-aged white guys who had a midlife crisis far too young. Who needs guns when you can just throw a knife, right? Cade, of course, kills them all, looks like a drug deal gone bad, and drives away. Oh my god, there's a scene where he feels us in his truck, hands all over him, and he's like, not now, Kitten Whiskers. Daddy has a job to do. Later, I promise. That's not a direct quote, but it might as well be. Least to say, Cade is starting to believe that all of this is real. That Callie has been right all along and magic really does exist. But he's kind of pushing against it still. Anyway, he catches up to Alan White, kidnaps him. He takes Alan to a secluded spot in the desert, abandoned and everything, and begins to torture him for information. I won't go into the details about the torture, but Alan tells Cade that his wife, Rosa White, is the true, unassuming mastermind behind everything. Whoa! Callie was right from the beginning? Crazy! Cade kills Alan, burns the building down, and sets off to get started on the next mission. The whole investigation really left him rattled though, because Alan said something about Callie's soul being marked or something. That she already belongs to the god that the cult worships. Crazy. See, she wasn't just gonna be sacrificed for something random. She was a sacrifice for the god that the Order of the Covenant worshipped. She presented with very powerful abilities, which I guess was the only parameter for a perfect sacrifice. With Cade beginning to believe in our existence, he calls the reader his little ghost, which I honestly think is kind of cute. He begins to believe that maybe this cult wasn't crazy after all. Maybe there really was a god, and maybe this god really had left a permanent mark on Callie. So you know what this man does? He makes a vow to kill a fucking god. I mean, ambitious, but good for him. I feel like we've all at some point wanted to kill a god, you know? But I think most of us don't actually try. Callie asks Alabaster to teach her how to use her magic, because currently the best she can do is accidentally completely destroy a whole room when she gets too emotional. She needs magic to do that. I just need to try and organize my room with unmedicated ADHD. This is the scene with the vines and the inappropriate use of a gardening hose. All I can say about that scene, it sounds like a yeast infection waiting to happen. So despite Callie's impending UTI, his methods actually are effective in teaching her how to control her abilities. I mean, there was one good thing that came out of that, objectively. Maybe. Mayhaps. Cade comes home. He and Callie have a heart-to-heart again about the whole magic thing this time, though, which leads to an argument because Callie is like, that's it? You just accept it? No arguing, nothing? You've ridiculed me for this for ages and now it's just nothing? Not a big deal? Which, you know what? Fair. If I had been belittled for something like this for years and then told by that same person that I wasn't actually delusional and they believe me now, but stop making a big deal out of it, I'd be pretty pissed too. They have this whole scene where Callie reveals to Cade that she has magic. He lovingly accepts her for who she is. It's sweet. He's honestly a really good brother, except for the part where he locks her away in the house for her own protection and almost total isolation. Anyway, Cade asks Callie to do some research on this whole god thing so he knows who exactly he's trying to kill, and Callie goes searching. Oh my god. Shortly after, Cade finds out that Jack and Callie used to be a thing, and he gets fucking livid. He's like, I could forgive you if I knew that you actually loved her. And Jack is like, I do love her. And it's like Grey's Anatomy for a second. Callie is shocked. Cade is disgusted. Alabaster is reveling in Jack's misery. And poor Jack unfortunately gets rejected and an uppercut. Cade goes off to find Rosa through her right-hand man, Benjamin Teller. And Callie has a bad feeling about it. She does a rune reading, which is a form of divination using Nordic runes, and gets confirmation that it's all a trap. Jack is like, you're worrying too much. Cade knows what he's doing. That guy that just called, there was a guy that called their house phone and it was Alabaster possessing the landline. You should take up his offer for a date. It's Halloween. You're young. Have some fun. You know, trying really hard to take this rejection thing well. So Alabaster takes a human form and takes her out on a Halloween date. While they get lost in the lust of a tacky haunted house in what I imagine as a high school gymnasium, wouldn't you know it, Cade gets caught in a trap. It's almost like Callie predicted this would happen. Nobody listens to powerful women. Mind you, we also tried telling Cade that it was a trap. But the fucker just doesn't know how to listen. I can't blame him though. I don't even pay attention to myself. I say a lot. Long story short, Cade went in and got his shit rocked. Turns out Benjamin had a little trick up his sleeve. A witch up his sleeve. He had a bitch up his sleeve. He's brought to Rosa, who really wants revenge for how he killed her husband and daughter. Fair, but plot twist, the witch Genevieve uses her magic to let Cade in on this secret plan her and Benjamin had come up with. They wanted to be done with the cult just as much as he and Callie did. Why? Well, because in Callie's absence, Genevieve is supposed to be sacrificed. And guess what? They're in love. Ben and Jen, I mean. So they become allies and plan their escape, yada yada yada. Unfortunately, they still have to keep up appearances. So Cade continues to get the shit beat out of him, but at least Genevieve is healing his wounds with magic. By the way, throughout all of this, Callie and Jack work endlessly to find Cade because they lost contact with him. Callie uses magic, Jack uses his tech skills because he's the tech guy. Hey! When they do find him, Jack zooms off in his car to rescue Cade. Cade enacts this big escape with Ben and Jen, but it goes wrong fast. They get caught and there's like this shootout or whatever. I'm tired. Is this done yet? Cade is on the ground, getting the life strangled out of him. He goes, Brian, I love you. And then he gets saved. Ben tells Jen, I need to stay here and put out some fires to keep them off your trail. And she's not happy about it, but who would be? And they all go home. The end. Well, some more stuff happens. At some point, Cade had the name of the Covenant's god carved into his chest or something like that. And he's like, now I know your name. Alabaster. Dun dun dun. Alabaster is the god. And that's why Alabaster is attached to Callisto. Because she had been branded with his mark. And she's the one that was supposed to be sacrificed. Alabaster is a god. Specifically the god that Callie was supposed to be sacrificed to. The whole thing with that is that Alabaster actually hates the cult. A bit of extra information to add on to things. Jonathan Holloway is their ancestor who founded the Covenant. So the siblings are like cult royalty. While doing research into the cult for Cade, Callie finds out that it was actually Jonathan's father, Roland, that found the grimoire, not Jonathan. And that Jonathan had become so completely obsessed with it. Scarily so. Roland knew it was bad news, but Jonathan got his hands on it anyway and started the cult. Later, we, the audience, find out that Jonathan had similar powers to Callie. Would have been nice to know that it's hereditary, but whatever. He called upon Alabaster to help him control his powers, and from then on, Alabaster's sigil had been used against his will. I think they allude to the idea that Alabaster had been creeping on a bunch of the previous sacrifices before they were killed, just like he had been doing with Callie. But they never outright say that. And it's something that I only really remembered vaguely being mentioned in passing at the very beginning. Maybe it was something that we were supposed to piece together on our own, but it wasn't abundantly clear because it was only mentioned once or twice at the very start. But who knows? Well, you know who knows. Miss Hanna Harp. I'm telling you all of this now because I had no clue where to add it in. It's like we're given individual puzzle pieces sporadically throughout the story. But the puzzle isn't what the story is focusing on. It's important, but for the sake of our book club, it makes more sense to just explain it all at once. At the end, there's this one guy, Ashur. I think he's another god, a friend of Alabaster's, whose specialty is possession. He had showed up previously and been like, I'm gonna keep an eye on you, because this looks entertaining. Have you figured out where this is going yet? He wants to know why Alabaster is so obsessed with these humans. So he possesses Jack and essentially holds him hostage. But the only person who knows Jack is being possessed is Alabaster. And then after the end, we get a small thing from Cade where he says, babe, back there when I was dying, crazy. I didn't think of my friends or my family. I thought of you. When I kill that Alabaster god guy, wherever he is, I'm coming for you next. I'm going to consume you like you consumed me. Love you. And now we're at the end. Finishing the book off with a cliffhanger and a promise to be stalked? Call me delusional, but that's so sweet. In the same way that a lion at the zoo is cute. As long as it's all the way over there and behind a secure fence, that's the cutest creature in the world. Just stay there. Section 5, Thoughts and Feelings. I was surprised to discover that this was published through an actual publishing company and not self-published. The quality is that of a Wattpad fanfiction. Actually, scratch that. I'll promote it to an AO3 fanfic. It's something I'd be writing a million praises about if it had been published on AO3 or Tumblr, but it's not exactly written like it had any editor or beta readers. So much of the story is focused on building the relationships instead of the plot, which I'm hoping is due to what I call the curse of the first book, where you have to spend a lot more time establishing things in the first book to properly set up for the rest of the books in the series. Normally, I think this would work fine. Because we're focusing on two separate relationships with such a short page count, though, it feels rushed. Imagine there's 272 pages, which seems like a lot if the majority is establishing those relationships, right? Cut that in half. That's 136 pages to create a whole relationship from meeting to head over heels in love for just one of the two relationships this book is about. And not even all of that 136 pages is dedicated to just the relationship, because there is a plot still being written beyond the romance. I went back through the book to check how many chapters each character gets, and here are the results. So Cade gets 14 chapters, Callie gets 13, and Alabaster gets 7. Going by that, Alabaster technically gets the short straw, but combining Callie and Alabaster's chapters, we get 20 chapters to establish Calabaster. I've deemed that their ship name. And 14 chapters to establish Caden. Listen, there's no good way to make a ship name for them. Raid? Cater? Cat. For Nat and Cade. I mention all of that because it was a common complaint in the reviews that Harp spent too much time on Callie and Alabaster's relationship compared to Cade and YN's. In reading it, yeah, you do feel like Cat was put just a little bit, just a tad on the back burner. Calabaster gets a whole 6 chapters more than we do. 6 chapters may not seem like a lot, but when you do the math, it's approximately 18% of the book. Meaning Calabaster gets 68% of the book compared to our 32%. Again, this is just an approximation. And for a book that makes its whole marketing plan centered around that 32%, it feels cheap and disappointing. I was lucky and did my research before reading, but I shouldn't have had to. I would have been far more upset if I had gone in unawares. Completely off that topic now, when they release, I'm trying not to be too graphic here. So we're using the language of a Wattpad novel written by a 14-year-old that's trying to be poetic about their One Direction fanfiction smut. We call it a lemon in this house. Actually, this might be bordering on grapefruit territory with how graphic some of these scenes are. Side note, has anybody ever actually read anything labeled as grapefruit on the citrus scale? I feel like anybody that's writing that level of fanfiction smut is at the point where they aren't using the citrus scale anymore. What was I saying? Oh yeah, when they release, they're just putting their clothes back on. No cleanup, not a single wipe down or anything of the sorts. They just let go and stay sitting in that shit. Crazy. Uncomfortable. At the end of the day, I enjoyed this book. Probably more than I should have. If the marketing hadn't shot itself in the foot, I think more people would have liked it as well. And that's what really breaks my heart about this book and its negative reviews. Even if it's not necessarily a whole lot of negative reviews. For some reason, Goodreads just shows the negative ones first, and it's a lot harsher in their reviews. Section 6, favorites. I want zero judgment when I say this. Cade was my favorite character. He seems like a man who whimpers, and that's all I'll say about that. No, but in all seriousness, I think Harp did a wonderful job at creating a morally gray character that's objectively a monster, and making her audience feel like he's baby girl. Of course, what made that so much easier to do was establishing that he is literally designed for the reader. He's my baby girl. Every flag is a green flag when you're red-green colorblind. I'm not, but I could be for Cade. My favorite scene in the book probably has to be, and I know this is gonna be corny, either the part where Cade kills the biker gang and pulls a Shrek 2 Prince Charming, or when he slashes the guy's tires for kicking a kitten. There are so many moments where it's like, see? Cade is a man written by a woman. Teehee, teehee. And the kitten scene is one of those moments where it actually works. The biker gang. I can't justify that one. That one you can judge me for. Oh, one more thing. I also loved the scene where Callie was getting mad at Alabaster, and he thinks it's the cutest, sexiest thing in the world. That, my good friends, brings us to the end of this meeting. If you liked this video, consider leaving a like. Mayhaps sacrifice my subscribe button to a god for me with a gentle little tap. Or I guess, like, don't be gentle. We are sacrificing it after all. If there's a book you'd like to see me make a video about, leave a comment down below, giving me the recommendation. I might make a video about it or not. I do what I want, and that's the only guarantee with the series. If you don't have any recommendations, leave a comment telling me what god you're sacrificing my poor little subscribe button to. I hope you all have a lovely rest of your day. Bye-bye. Why? Don't clip that. I changed my mind. Don't clip that. Why have I made my script for this so long? I know the camera's shaking when I burped is completely unrelated, but that was so funny. That timing. Anyway. Oof. I don't know if the camera picked that up, but that was my shoulder. All right, it is 3:37 in the morning. My sister's snoring in the other room, and I'm really hoping that the microphone isn't picking it up, because I will cry.